Everyone. My name is Anna Peterson, and I will be giving a presentation on the historical Richard III and answering the question, was Richard III really a hunchback? Richard III was born October 2nd in 1452 and died August 22nd, 1485. He was 12 of 13 children, and he actually had a pretty sad childhood. When he was 7, his father was killed in the Battle of Wakefield, so he grew up without a father and without a father figure. His brother was killed in the aftermath of that same battle. So at only 7 years old, he had to see and go through a lot of tragedy and a lot of heartbreak. When he turned 18, he became a great nobleman. And he was nobleman for dozens of years. On July 12th in 1472, he married Anne Neville, and then he became king in 1483. 2 short years later, he died while he was fighting his final battle at Bosworth. That was in 1485, and he died during battle. Was Richard III really a hunchback? In Shakespeare, that's one of the first things we find out about him, is that he is a humpback. He had a withered hand, he had a limp. But was that all really true? So we didn't know for sure until recently. They didn't find the skeleton of Richard III until 2012. An excavation took place in Leicester, England, where they thought the Greyfriars were. And during this excavation, they hoped to find remnants of the buildings, but mostly Richard III's skeleton, which they found. Once they found his skeleton, they were able to put it together and see if he really had a hunchback, which he didn't. He had scoliosis. So if you can see on the picture in the right, this is what historians believed that Richard III's spine looked. So you can see the top of the spine is pretty straight, pretty normal. The bottom of it, it's a little more curved, but it's still pretty straight. But the middle of his spine is jutted out to the right. They believe that he had adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. This is what people get when their adolescent growth spurt during their adolescent growth spurt. And what happens is their spine grows faster than the rest of their body does. So if you are alive today, there is a procedure that could be done that could help with this scoliosis. But there was no procedure back then, so he wasn't able to do that. But besides his scoliosis, his skeleton proved that he did not have a withered hand or a limp. He is physically completely fine besides his scoliosis. One of the first times we meet Richard III, he says this: "Since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair, well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain and hate the idle pleasures of these days." So right away when you meet Richard III in Shakespeare's play, you don't like him. He flat out says that he is going to be a villain and that he just doesn't love life. Shakespeare painted an image of Richard III that was a power-hungry evil king. He used his hunchback and disabilities, such as his withered arm and his limp, to gain sympathies from others. And once they developed a relationship of trust, he would stab them in the back. Historians have continued to discredit this image. In fact, they believe that his reputation of evil only began after his death. So they believe, historians have proved that he wasn't actually evil. Shakespeare painted this image of him that was completely false. Richard III was depicted by Tudor artists who gave him a hunchback, withered arm, and a limp. These portraits were painted long after his death. There are earlier portraits of Richard III that were painted while he was alive. Those do not depict him with any physical ailments. There is also no written record while he was alive that he had these physical deformities. So Shakespeare exaggerated these his physical ailments a ton. He only had scoliosis, but Richard III only had scoliosis, but Shakespeare gave him a hunchback. So some other myths about Richard III was that he was an unpopular king, he was an evil king and a bad ruler, and he poisoned his wife. While Richard III wasn't described as a benevolent king, he definitely wasn't evil. He did a lot of good and helped a lot of people. He translated laws into English and made the legal system much more fair than it had been before. When he became king, he was approved to be king by the Parliament. So Parliament believed that he was going to be a great king. One of his biggest accomplishments that was performed while he was king is that he defended England against the Scots. This is a big deal and helped England a lot and helped a lot of people. The other myth was that he poisoned his wife. DNA samples that we have now have shown that he did not poison his wife. She died 5 months before Richard III, and evidence has shown that she died of tuberculosis, which was quite a common disease to die from at the time. So Richard III did not poison his wife. He wasn't an unpopular king, he wasn't evil, or he wasn't a bad ruler. I hope you guys enjoyed learning more about the historical Richard III and realizing that Shakespeare did not depict the true image of him. Thank you guys so much for watching.